Well, hello, seekers and fellow travelers. This is Casey. I just wanted to touch base on a couple themes we've been talking about the last couple weeks around community, around finding meaning in our businesses and in our work life, and in rallying circles around us to support us and to carry our work out to bigger and bigger levels. We suffer from this affliction of what I call I got this. Not to be confused with confidence. I got this is when we find ourselves in isolation, maybe with a screen in our face too much of the time, or wasting away in some cubicle or some corner office somewhere, when in reality we just want to be deeply connected to those around us. So as we get into this conversation with Ani DiFranco, think about what she's done to build this incredible following for her work that has supported her family for so many years. It's something that I've had to figure out on a much smaller scale over the last few years. And it's something I'm very passionate about. And if you want to learn more about what we're launching for founders, for executives, for entrepreneurs, please visit this page. It's www.ignite.thisepiclife.com/ripple. ignite.thisepiclife.com/ripple. I'll see you on the other side. I'm so excited for this one.
Ooh, this beat is epic.
Welcome to This Epic Life podcast, where we explore the connection between building a conscious life and building a conscious team or a conscious business. We also break down 3 powerful permissions with our guests. These are, of course, the permission to chill, to find silence and let that inner voice speak. Next is permission to feel all the feels, or to embrace our full, messy, beautiful humanity. And finally, 3, permission to glow in the dark, or as Ani DiFranco and I discussed today, glowing in the light. Oh! My name is Christopher Carter. I will be your host. I'm a coach for founders and executives and meditation teacher for organizations. And now let's meet this week's guest. This intro is going to be a little bit different. I got to start with her formal bio, and then we'll get more comfy from there. Ani DiFranco is a Grammy-winning musical artist and feminist icon, recognized for her poetry and songwriting, which pierces social convention and challenges the status quo, as well as for her social activism and political engagement. One of the first artists to create her own label in 1990, she is the mother of the DIY movement and has sold over 5.5 million albums on her own Righteous Babe Records, and recently released her 20th studio album, as well as an incredible new book, a vivid memoir of her first 30 years called No Walls and the Recurring Dream. While she has been known as the Little Folksinger, her music has embraced many genres and collaborators over the years, ranging from Pete Seeger to Chuck D to Prince. She lives in New Orleans, and her Righteous Babe Records is mostly based in Buffalo, New York, where she started out, and has now become a virtual business of sorts. When it comes to creating a loyal following for your ideas or your products or services or your art, I can't think of a better example of somebody who's done this with more integrity and more direct connection to their fans than Ani DiFranco has. I've been following her work for decades at this point. We finally became friends 7 years ago when I interviewed her on this podcast. And lately, we've just become friends, separate from the music, separate from the crazy, freaky, nervous fanboy I was 7 years ago, and still sometimes am, as you'll hear in this interview. I just have such a tremendous respect for who she is as a person, as a mom, as a business leader, as an activist, as a writer, and as somebody who's just fiercely committed and loyal to the process of creating beautiful art. This conversation is highly recommended for anyone who's a fan of Ani's work, but also for the busy parents among us or the people with competing priorities who need to create a substantial amount of work to support a family or to support ourselves. Her ways of balancing things is just really incredible. Maybe it's because she's a Libra, I don't know. But her recent book, No Walls and the Recurring Dream, hit the bestseller list shortly after it came out in May. And she went on this press tour, and I watched and listened to just about every single interview that she did. And I don't think I could think of one that was as in-depth or long or as detailed or as totally geeked out from a fan person's perspective as this one. So I feel really, really fortunate to share this with you. Grab a cup of tea, get comfortable. We cover a huge range of topics, from music to her relationship to her fans to crazy stories hanging out with Prince and Pete Seeger and these powerful lessons. We shed a few tears. I can't think of any podcast episode I've edited lately where I literally shed tears and laughed my ass off, like this conversation I had with my good friend and shero, the feminist musical goddess queen, Ani DiFranco. Yay! Ani DiFranco's in my office.
Chris Carter, you're in your office.
I am in my... Holy crap, I'm in my office too. Shoes optional right now in the office?
Yeah, I didn't see any sign on the door, so I felt free to pad on in.
You're on a tour of sorts right now. Summertime.
Yeah, I'm on the little summertime break, but I'm going to be back in the saddle, I don't know, by the end of the week. So yeah, life is an endless tour. Back to Alaska? Is that where you start? Yeah, kicking it off in Alaska this time. And you start with a stop for the book, like a book tour stop? Yeah. What's it like touring to support a book when you've been touring to support music for so many years? Pretty different. I mean, getting up in the morning, that's a new one. I mean, morning, right. Like 4 a.m. lobby call, get on a plane, go to the next city. Yeah. You know, and then I was doing things on this book tour that I stopped doing long ago for music. You know, I couldn't be moved to do this much like press and interviewing for music anymore. I just put my foot down. No, I just, whoever comes, you know? But for this book thing, you know, everybody says when it comes out, work harder than you've ever worked. Don't pass go, don't collect, just do it. So I've talked all day long for a couple of weeks. And it was very intense, especially because it's such personal material. Right. Exhausting. You go from 2 years in a creative cocoon, writing No Walls and The Recurring Dream, out to just like a blitz of talking about deeply personal moments from your entire life. What was that like? It was overwhelming. It was really a learning curve for sure. You know, the first few days I thought, we started in New York and it was 2 days intense in New York but I got through it and I stayed positive and energetic and I was into these conversations. And then I thought, phew, all right, I did it. And then it was 2 more weeks of that. And then I had my moments where I thought, holy crap, I don't want to ever talk ever again. Certainly not about me, you know? Yeah. But yeah, I guess, you know, you put it all out there and it's certainly better than no response, you know? Yeah. So it was good. It was good to get out there and talk about this stuff. I mean, that's why I put it in the world, so that it's a conversation starter, really. What was the genesis of the book? What convinced you to finally take on writing a autobiography or a memoir? For one thing, I wanted to challenge myself, you know, just do something different, artistically, creatively. You know, I wrote so many songs, hundreds of songs. So did that, done that, a few poems along the way, but the complete sentences thing, you know, just... With proper capitalization and commas, editing. All of that. I became more literate during the 2 years of writing, for sure. You know, I had to really get my there. It filled the bill. It was challenging. It was definitely a whole other kind of writing, just completely different experience from songs. And then, of course, my other oblique strategy was just to figure out a way to work from home because I got kids. Yeah. And I need to be home more for them and the whole family unit. So writing a book is something you can do in your own house. Playing shows for people is not. What was kind of your workflow over those 2 years? I mean, I guess I've seen your home, and you were typically writing in the kitchen table area. Was it just kind of sit down and put in a couple hours? Like, did you have goals each day? Or, I mean, how much did you clock in? Random snatches. I can't remember. It was like one of my founding mothers, you know, Alice Walker or Adrienne Rich or somebody wrote this essay called A Room of One's Own. And, you know, just sort of breaking it down. Why don't women make the great art? Well, first of all, they got kids. and you can't do a thing with children around you.
Right.
You can't. There's no time and space for parents, mothers traditionally.
There's even completing sentences or coherent
Yeah.
thoughts. There's always
Verbally.
somebody interrupting or needing something.
Yeah, let alone writing them down. So, I did the ridiculous thing of setting up at the kitchen table. I just couldn't.
In the center of the action.
In the center of our little universe. But I just couldn't remove myself. That just didn't feel possible.
Yeah.
No cabin on Walden Pond or whatever the hell. I had to be there for my family. That was the point. And even just at one point, I tried to set up in a room upstairs but I was needed to,
Yeah.
so, and I felt that I could get more done if it was right there by everything that everyone needed and everyone who needed me. And when they had what they needed, I could sit down and
chunk it out.
Couple of sentences. So it was just, I did it kind of sneakily while doing the huge.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was worried about that a lot along the way. Like, is this an okay way to make a book? Yeah. It's such a large undertaking, and you would do well to have the sort of time and space to really try to get your head around such a big object. So I didn't quite have that along the way, and I thought, whoa, can it be done this way? I don't know.
Did it contribute at all to the format of the book? Because I love the format. It's kind of vignettes.
Right.
Was that a conscious choice, or was that kind of part of the...
Yeah, maybe that's just what happens when you're working in fits and spurts and snatches.
Just you write scenes.
Yeah.
Focus on one scene.
That just happened instinctually. But then it helped because I had a lot of memory issues, for starters. Like, what the hell happened? I don't know. I don't remember. Who remembers? No, nobody remembers. I could remember this little piece and put it here. And then I remembered this little story, this little piece, and I put it, and then I could shuffle them and try to discern the chronology, because that was very elusive. Things were not, I don't think linearly, and, I had, so it was helpful to have smaller cards that I could shuffle around and then order.
Did you organize things into themes and topics? Like, did you use note cards or Post-its or anything or did you just sit down at the computer and bang it out until it had enough to work with?
Computer, weirdly, I just sat and I thought that I would write on paper, which is how I've done songs and poems, and all my writing experiences, are start on paper. So I got a computer that had a voice dictation because I was convinced I was going to write, and then I just speak it into the box. But then I wanted to tweak shit so much that I ended up, pretty soon I was just right in the box. But it's baffling because you're creating this thing that is 300 and some pages, and you can only see one page at a time on this computer, so it was hard to know even like how big is this thing right now, or how far through it, or where am I, what is this? It's you can only see one page at a time, which is an interesting fact of the computer writing.
It's pretty interesting to think about the time traveling you were doing to be getting into the granular details of your very fast moving life in your 20s and teens and all that. But you're sitting in the very present day needs of kids needing refills or whatever they're bugging you for. Who did you rely on to help you fill in gaps of your memories? Because I'm sure there's just a ton of detail. And also, did you feel like in finishing it and reading it, the final product, did people get left out, or did you?
Yeah. There's a lot of, I don't know who I am more apologetic to, the people that are in there or the people who are left out. You might be lucky to be left out. I found that kind of amazing, how you can write 300 pages I only wrote sort of up the first 30 years, but I left, that's like, it's like a haiku of the first 30 years, that book.
Yeah.
There's so much more. Right. And it just seems it's weird to distill so much, what to talk about, what to leave out. I just sort of tried to paint a picture with primary colors, that invoked that girl and her journey. But there's a lot not there.
A few things that really stuck out to me, getting to know you over the last few years and then becoming a super fan all over again through the book, kind of a weird journey. But I love the making songs chapters. There's 4 of them.
Yeah.
Was that kind of a nice reprieve to talk about creative process? Because I feel like a lot of the interviews you do about your music, people don't get into the how you come up with the magic, like where the magic comes from.
Yeah, right. Well, okay, so first of all, I missed answering your question of who did I seek help from. And the memory tip, Heidi Ho, my wonderful mistress of merch that I've traveled with for 20 plus years. Yeah. She was a help. I did tap Scott Fisher once for some details. Mostly I just kind of went in and found the most accurate picture I could find within myself, although I'm sure others would dispute it.
So you would write it and then maybe have people fact check it or anything else to fill in, or is it
Well, then there's the publisher, of course, has fact checkers. They did their thing, spelling people's names right and making sure I'm not talking out of school or whatever. I mean, and then there's a legal team involved with the publishing company that says, well, so now here you are describing somebody doing something illegal. Change the name, conversations about that, because you can't.
Wow, so some names were changed to protect.
Yeah, I mean, I messed with a bunch of names that just, I don't want to disturb people's lives, but I want to tell the real story. And then there were just people who helped my early readers. One of them was Terry, who's the wife of my road manager of about 5 years. Terry Sutton. She's like a professor, an English professor in Minneapolis. When I went through playing Minneapolis, I'm like at the First Avenue, and there's Dave, my old traveling companion, and Terry comes to visit, and we're talking about this book that I'm working on, and she says, if you want, I'll read it. I'll read for you if you want. And cool. And then 6 months later, Dave sends me a text. Terry's still, I'm like, right. I'm trying to dial the thing in myself at this point. And I'm like, shit, I'll just send it to her. She's offered again. And thank goddess I did. She was sort of my de facto editor. One of the things I was having trouble with was pontificating too much, in the middle of storytelling, and my early readers, I could vibe from them, and some of them articulated it directly, like, I'm flowing along with these stories, and then you want me to sit down and listen to you spout off for, like, can we get on with the journey, and I could feel myself looking back, how the forward momentum really ebbs when you start to just idea share, it doesn't quite have the feeling of now we're going back down the road at 75 again.
There's other things to do than just a trip down memory lane. What were those big themes that kind of hooked you into pontificating?
I mean, just, stuff I think about, some of the stuff that I really, ideas that are in my head that I don't see in the world around me so much. So I want to maybe put them in the world somewhere and see if there's other people who resonate with it. That was the part of the writing that was most exciting for me, the part that was least exciting for everybody else, or, that was more laborious for my readers. For me, like, telling what happened was kind of arduous, I was like,
That's like reporting versus...
talking more about me and my life, I've done so much in my songs, but when I was talking about my ideas that I really care about, and that not about me per se, but about what I perceive about the world, that's when I got really excited. If it were up to me, I would have written a whole book of whatever. It would be even less memoir-y than it is. But Terry, for instance, was a person she was the one who suggested breaking Making Songs, which was originally a 30-page section into 5 parts,
cool.
It's like, yes, what a perfect running theme. Thank you. And then I can break it up a little more, and you get back to the action, and it got the flow, trickling along better. So
I went back and read all the Making Songs pieces last night, kind of in order, just back to back. I mean, I know your songwriting process seems to change constantly and it evolved over time as you got better and better and better at it. But it was kind of cool to see the maturity of that process over time. I don't know if that was a conscious thing or not. When you go back, does it ever surprise you that you created all the stuff you've created? Or do you just kind of, or are you present to all the work it took to do it?
I'm not surprised by what I created. In fact, I'm not even sure what we're talking about, because it's like I make the albums, for instance, and then I never listen to them again. Personally, I don't even know, and sometimes I hear songs I recorded and I don't even recognize that. I don't remember.
Wow.
Oh, that's me.
So it doesn't take you back to the moment necessarily, or the studio.
It's like seeing snapshots of, oh, whoa, was that me? That was my hair? Or that, wait, where was I? That for me, the things I made is not so startling because I don't even see that or focus on that as much as the effect that what I see is the other people that it's brought into my life. And sometimes when I'm pulling up to a venue and there's a line around the block, I'm like, I still can't believe it. I still can't believe that these songs went into the world and found people and then they came to find me. And it's just, that to me is still very startling and amazing.
I think as a fan, what's so cool to read about the process of that was the songwriting itself seems to be the nucleus of all of that life and art that you created, was the often lonely work it takes to sit down and wrestle something into submission. And it also made me feel good as a fellow human being that the lyrics are not necessarily easy for you to write either, that it takes work of chiseling and puzzling and putting it down and coming back to it.
Yeah.
When you sit down, because I know you seem to have a new batch of songs right now, right? You played a couple of them in Cleveland a few months ago. Yeah. Is the process anywhere near the same as it used to be, or is it a lot more like the book, just kind of stealing time when you can?
Yeah, I would say because I have so much less time being a mother of two and blah, 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 and having a few different jobs to juggle. It's like secret work. I have to work secretly. I work in my head. In fact, like I was just at your house taking a shower and working on, I'm about 3 lines into this song that I can't get out of my head. But I'm hung up driving today. I was driving down the highway and I have to get over this first verse hurdle and I just working it in my head.
Wow.
I used to be able to sit down for hours and hang out with my guitar and do that all day and half the night and, uninterrupted musing with my guitar. And now, I don't have that. So I do the work secretly, lying in bed. And then these moments with my guitar or moments when I actually have an hour or two of focus and space and quiet, those are so rare. So that's like, then I just start digging ditches. I just take all the ideas and the things floating and I'm like, come on, put it together, make it happen. This is it.
This is my moment.
This is your moment.
Do you get the, mommy, what are you doing? Do they feel like you're cheating on them?
I do. I feel guilty. I feel guilty now about doing this thing that's just for me.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or, that's not for them. Although it is the thing that supports my family financially. So it's funny to feel guilty for doing the work that supports the thing. But yeah, I guess I could be probably more intentional and insist on mommy's going to go play guitar for an hour.
Go into the office.
Leave her the hell alone. Go to the office. Go find a space. But I haven't quite gotten there yet.
A lot of my listeners are fellow parents like you and I think we all identify with that. Like we have to carve out that place to get the work done somehow. Talk to me about circular grooves. There's kind of a scene in the book. It's after a festival maybe, and you're with a bunch of musicians from all over the planet back at a hotel, maybe some like West Africans.
Yeah.
You talk about the continuity and the similarities in the groove. Where did you discover that for yourself? Because I realized that your playing has been such a huge influence on me. Explain to people what a circular groove is and how you think about that.
Gee, yeah. I mean, when I hear, something like guitar playing, like what we're talking about, I hear it as either circular or linear, know, and I feel sort of in my body like circles are sort of feminine and linear is more masculine. You know, for instance, I have played guitar for 40 years, and I don't think I've ever played a guitar solo.
Oh, yeah, like the up high in the neck, shredding little licks.
Like, there's something to me that I'm not putting it down or saying one is better than the other at all. Both are very powerful, and but there's there's something very linear about the statement, the guitar solo, whereas the rhythm guitar, which is just a grooved bass supportive incantation, it's less of a statement that begins and ends, and it's more of a sort of a mode of existence that doesn't begin and doesn't end. I don't know. That's sort of the way I'm attracted to the guitar, but there's so many ways to come at it.
It's awesome watching your current lineup, who's been with you for a long time, Terrence and Todd.
Yeah.
Those dudes drop into that groove and they take you someplace different. Every time I talk to you about your drummer, he's like my favorite drummer. It looks like he's sitting on a giant sofa, just so easy, but he's hitting everything all at once. He's just amazing. It sounds like a spiritual thing where you drop into something deeper and bigger and more timeless than yourself. A lot of your songs are built around a repetitive riff.
I think the best music is made by musicians who are not listening to themselves, who are, I'm not smart enough to tune in to the universe and put my antenna as high as it goes and play a frickin' guitar solo. I just have to do something repetitive and respond to what I'm trying to dial into. When I'm playing best, it's when I'm not at all aware of what the hands are doing, and I'm just listening through into something more elusive that's out there waiting to be heard and tapped into. And the less that my hands demand or state or direct, the easier it is for me to go out, get outside.
The performance you did probably as an encore, when we saw you maybe a month ago, you almost finished the show with Not a Pretty Girl, and it's kind of evolved into a no guitar thing.
Oh, Todd Joyful Girl.
I'm sorry, Joyful Girl.
Right.
I got it confused. Joyful Girl, Todd playing the organ or the Rhodes kind of vibe, but a real gospel-y, spiritual, ethereal, totally different take on it. How good does it feel to sing a song like that that's been around a while, but kind of completely reinvented?
Yeah.
That night, it looked like it felt pretty damn good, but what's the feeling for you when you play something like that?
Those are nice moments when I can bring out of whatever, 20, sometimes 30-ish year old song and still feel it, connect myself to the person who wrote it or whatever, just sing it as a new person, but it still feels relevant. But of course it comes out completely different. I do it for the joy it brings, 'cause I'm a joyful girl, because the world owes me nothing, and we owe each other the world. I do it 'cause it's the least I can do. I do it 'cause I learned from you, and I do it just because I want to. And everything I do is judged, and mostly they get it wrong. Oh well, the bathroom mirror is not budged, and the woman who lives there can tell the truth from the stuff that they say. She looks me in the eye and says, would you prefer the easy way? No, then okay. Don't cry. I'm so blessed to have Todd and Terrence. And I mean, I've had so many occasions on stage where I was struggling to get it where I wanted it, or struggling to get everybody on the same page, or find the page that we could, or whatever it is. And with them, I don't have to struggle. I don't have to think. I don't have to try. I just play and they play. And it's so nice to especially like approach older songs that came from more fraught times, you know, and to be in a situation of total ease, you know, from just where my being is at right now, and who I am playing with and spending time with, and how we feel about each other and how we deal with each other. And it's just everything is in a better place. And so it's, I mean, that was kind of a delicious factor of doing the mixtape to go along with this book.
Oh my God, I love the mixtape.
Oh,
It turned out so freaking cool.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the day it came out on Spotify, I listened to it in my shower, and I probably took a shower as long as the entire duration of it. It was so good.
Man.
I'm so clean.
You know, how?
Just sparkling. People wonder how I do it. That's how I do it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of more solo playing, but just to, sort of revisit some songs from some shaky and more desperate times and versions of myself, but to like be able to sing them with a little bit more grounded.
I love how you treated the guitar. Did you knock all those out in one session or a couple sessions?
No, if the home studio was busy, so I had to kind of get a couple days here and a couple days there.
And all of them still pretty true to the keys, the original keys you played them in for the most part?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm asking the wrong person.
Yeah, you are. You are. You'd have to ask Todd for the accurate answer.
Yeah, transfer me to the musical integrity department.
Yeah.
The thing I was present to when I heard those back was just the depth and the gravitas of your voice comes through in a different place. I associate so much of your early work with just that ferocity of taking up so much sonic space and word space, and every syllable has a place. Like there's so much energy in it. And that one is just like a kind of a reimagining of those songs with more space, it's a cool trip. It's definitely a mix.
What if I had sung this song while breathing? What would it sound like then?
I think Frankie may have told you, my daughter Frankie, she's 10. Somehow the song Dilate has become like the summertime classic of our house. So
that's so
2-3 times a day. It's like the song kids cannonball to in the pool. Like, how did that happen?
Wow.
Right.
You got to send me a little vid. one of these cannonballs.
When you were talking about the guitar solos, tell me about recording in Prince's studio.
Oh man, I feel like I get sadder every day that he's gone. It's not supposed to work that way. I'm supposed to be getting over it. But I get more and more bummed. But yeah, wow. I was just, okay, this is a diversion, but I was just, you've seen the Dave Chappelle, Charlie Murphy.
Oh my God, it's the best. Yeah.
Talking about hit their night at Paisley Park.
Basketball, they come out in the stage outfits and high heels. And
I gotta say, except for the pancakes, kind of similar. We did play ball. I didn't put that part in the story. But
so what year-ish? Like early 90s, mid 90s?
So late 90s, even who knows, 2000? I don't know. But yeah, Prince comes to my show in Minneapolis, invites me back to his studio. I show up the next day, sort of midday, and I left late. We did that little recording business that was so traumatic for me, the non-guitar player, you know, and playing on this Prince ballad, you know. I was just like, oh, I'm so unworthy. This is like...
So what guitar? Is it just one of your stage guitars? Like an acoustic?
Shitty little Alvarez with the pick guard all over the face of it. Like pardon me, Alvarez. I love you and thank you. Your instruments are awesome and have served me well. But this is not exactly a recording instrument, you know, a vintage,
it's like a workhorse
sonorous.
For the road.
It's my workhorse. So I show up with my little battle axe and, you know, he says it's in the key of G, you know, and I'm like,
you're like, where's the G?
I don't know. Yeah. Can you tell me which is G?
and you have, I mean, you've been playing music your entire life and you live and breathe it, and you've been able to do it without reading.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
But you generally know, when we saw you in Cleveland, you said, this is the first time I've played 4 or 5 songs in the standard tuning. Somehow the set list just fell together that way. Your guitar tech, you're amazing. What was that amazing woman's name?
Sully.
Right. She was like taking the night off, basically.
Yeah, right.
Because you change your guitar every single song.
Yeah.
Do you know the shapes of the chords and be able like, this is a G, this is an A, this is, you just kind of...
Yeah, I mean, so I started messing with tunings, open tunings, as soon as I started playing guitar. Because I don't know, it's just, look, knobs. Ooh, whoa, ooh, whoa, ooh. And then, so that's one reason why I'll never play a guitar solo, is because the notes are never in the same place for me, because I keep messing with those tuning pegs. So I don't know where all the notes go. They are always, I move them around and I make shapes. So that's sort of my approach, in terms of knowing, well, here's a G and here's a G and here's a G. See how, and that's where they always are. You'll find them there for the next 40. No, not if you're me. So there's no, so I don't name the notes and they don't stay in one place.
So it's all shapes and colors,
Shapes and colors. Exactly.
Wow. So basically the traditional structure of naming chords and traditional inversions and all that was almost a limiting factor versus this.
Yeah. Maybe too mathematical for me. I'm much more, impressionistic with my thinking. So I have a way of, I've sort of invented a tablature of just so I can take notes for myself of chords, but it's not the way it's usually done because I don't know really anything about music or music theory. But so there I am in Prince's studio, like, fuck, gee, what the fuck? Oh my God. This is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. But I just, ding, blong, bling, blong, bling, just try to play.
Adding color to
4 notes that I thought maybe kind of went with the song. That was over like in a blink, really. And then we were hanging out. We were playing basketball. We were on the roof looking at the fireworks. It was the 4th of July. And then we went and jammed on the sound stage. All the dudes showed up. Yeah, and it was, it's Prince and Larry Graham and Maceo Parker and all these just ridiculously funky masters of music and, little white girl from Buffalo, just like, with a tenor, I also brought my tenor guitar and I remember I busted that out for the jam. The most hick little 4-stringed.
What's the journey from folk to punk to funk, and what's next? If you could cover that kind of sonic territory and end up in those circles with like the legends of that genre, what got you there? What kind of pulled you into that universe?
The more groove music I discovered, the deeper it got into me. It's like, this is repetition. I don't know. There's something about just cycling and cycling and cycling that is so deeply, I think, in our nature. It's very soothing and satisfying and natural, to do, to repeat and repeat and repeat. That's our existence. I would still take an endless groove over boom, splash, pow, any day. But I'm whatever, I don't know. I'm getting older and tireder. So now when I sit down, I feel like I've been in a sort of a 3/4 kind of waltz for about a decade now.
It happens, 6/8, 3/4.
I don't know, it's like old age is setting in or something, and I want to waltz into the sunset. Hopefully there's somewhere to go from this waltz that I've been luxuriating in, but I have to check myself now. It's like, Ani, really? Another loping waltz?
so there'll be a waltz period starting now. You talk a lot about patriarchy, and it seemed like the idea was, like the lens got really opened up for you. Was it the new school? Was that the formative school?
Yeah.
But once you saw the world through that lens, it started coming up in a lot of other areas of the book. But to me, one of the most powerful ones was when you were talking about Pete Seeger. When Pete, if you could share your version of this story, where the press or somebody was trying to get him to count up all of his awards or all of his achievements, and he wouldn't even, and to me, you highlighting that story about him helped me understand you a lot better. Share a little bit about what you learned in that.
So it was a press conference. It's Pete's 90th birthday, and it's a big extravaganza, and there's just people out the wazoo, and there's a room full of press, and the reporter asks him, enumerates his worldly accomplishments, and you've been granted the Congressional Medal of Blood, you won this award and that award, and what are you most proud of? And Pete just pauses and says, I stayed married to the best woman I ever met, and we had, whatever the hell he said, 4 children and 6 grandchildren. And there was this pause, like, oh, yeah, right. What is accomplishment?
Yeah.
Like loving people,
What emotion does that bring up for you?
That's the hard shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard shit. That's the shit that we're all out there failing at, So it was super cool. And as far as society is concerned, that's such a chick thing to say.
Yeah.
That is such a girl perspective. Well, I had some really good relationships.
I have a beautiful family.
And I just thought it was such a powerful, beautiful thing for a man of such accomplishment and, who is held in such esteem to sort of body check that perspective.
Yeah.
Of accomplishment and success and just bring it right back down. Well, what if success is loving each other? Because that's the hard shit. And especially to do it like he did it, which is to expand it out and out and out.
Yeah. And really pass the torch in so many different ways. I mean, what huge impact.
I have hope for the world because, and this country in particular, because we love Pete Seeger so much, because I feel like that speaks well of us and, our ability to witness and appreciate and hold up heroes such as that.
You said something at your last show that really gave me a lot of hope. What are the things that you notice in traveling around the country and talking to so many people that give you hope for where we are right now in our political discourse and all the insanity that's happening?
Maybe I was talking the other night about hitchhiking, with some friends and cousins, and actually they were all men, but we were sharing, you used to hitchhike? I used to hitchhike, and nobody hitchhikes anymore. You can't you don't want to hitchhike, no more hitchhiking. And these friends were saying, yeah, but it's too bad because it's so cool. Why does somebody pick you up? Because they need company, because they need to stay awake, and you need a ride, so you talk to each other. And by the time you get there, wherever there is, you met somebody that you never maybe would have met, in the normal course of things. Yeah. And sometimes that can be a really profound thing to do. What a bummer that we don't get to do it in this sort of violent and divided world. And I was like, well, there's Lyft and these rideshare, Uber, it's legal and you have to pay for it, but still pretty profound.
I learned so much from Uber drivers. They're always like the smartest, crazy, most degrees, way more educated.
Yeah.
I've met some of the most amazing people who drive Ubers, and they don't need to do it. They just choose to do it.
Oh my goodness. I went to the wrong airport in DC.
How does that even happen?
The wrong freaking airport.
That's just...
Why do you have 2 airports and not tell me on my ticket?
I'm going to blame your road manager
Thank you.
This.
I was on my own. I went down there to do a political benefit, and poor little wayfaring Folksinger has to get her own ass to the airport, goes to the wrong airport. But I got there early enough. I'm like, maybe I can get to the right airport. So I'm standing out in the rain. It's actually kind of freezing rain, cold, awful. And I'm trying, and I'm a Luddite, a folk singer. So I'm trying to figure out this new Uber thing, and I'm futzing with my phone in the rain, and I'm hyperventilating. And this fella from Afghanistan who had just dropped off somebody on the, departures level. He's like, are you waiting for an Uber? Because that would be you have to go to the other level. I'll take you there, he says. So I get in his car, and then I'm like, Can you just take me to the other airport? Well, sure, but I'm afraid you'll have to cancel your, then that will, just take me. So he's speeding along to the other airport. Somehow in this incredibly rushed journey, he told me all about life in Afghanistan, and he's sending all his money home and he told me about his growing up with no running water, and you have to walk 7 miles to the well, and the thing, and the circumstance of his family. And this guy was just so deeply good and open and loving. And I was in this panic state, and he was there he just went out of his way. He saw me struggling. And when we got to the other airport, in time for my actual flight, he was like not going to charge me. And then I'm like, no, I want you to take, and we wanted to give each other our lives by the end of 20 minutes. Who could I love more than you? No, and I feel like these experiences, I have them just getting in strangers' cars and talking to them about their lives. And they're just we're so diverse, and everybody's got such a fascinating story, and everybody has such a big heart, and everybody, we want to connect with each other. We want to know each other. We want to see and love each other. And all of these forces preventing it are just excruciating, because I step into the world and that's what I experience. Mm-hmm. People of totally different cultures and ethnicities and political bents and walks of life. I don't know. My instinct is to talk to all of them. And each time I find something.
The real diversity you experience, which is what makes this interesting and great.
And I'm like, gee whiz, if we could turn off
all the noise
and just go out there and talk to each other. I feel sad that not everybody has my kind of life, which is one of travel and interaction. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe when you're home, in your house, in your bubble, in your world, you can stay afraid of the other and stay disconnected. But the minute you go out and hang out with the other, you realize, it's all us.
Yeah, and it's a lot of love.
Yeah.
When you're coming up on a tour like this week, you go back home with the family, you're there for just a couple of days, you turn back around, back out on the road. Do you get excited to go back out and see your peeps?
It's hard to leave, like the transitions, as any parent and with child knows. Transit, 10 minutes till airport time, Ani. Okay, now 5, now 3. Okay, don't lose your mind. Change is hard, but just go. And then once I'm out there, I just love it. Leaving is hard. Switching gears from, family to not and back is hard, but I still just love it so much.
Because at this point, you tour with a lot of the same, you have your road family and your whole music family, so it's a family reunion every time you go out, too. I mean, what are the things you love about it the most?
I love having a sense of purpose. Of course, children and family are a great purpose, and not an easy job, not a simple job, not a no-brainer, not insignificant. But there's something about the purpose that I found through my art and my music, and just being able to, connect myself to other people and to affirm other people's existence, and all of the sort of affirmation that comes back, and all of the stories, the people that come and find me face to face or through a letter or some transmission backstage, and tell me, you inspired me to go do me. Or even, I just didn't kill myself because it's just like, that just makes me feel really happy,
Yeah.
Just really happy to be here, really happy to have a job to do,
When you look out into all the faces each night, do you see familiar faces from years past? And
yeah, it's sort of a rotating. People come along maybe for years at a time, and they'll appear and appear and appear over and over. There they are, front row, or
Yeah.
but then they have a baby, or then they take a job in the huzaba, or then they go and blah, blah, blah. So, and then every now and then they'll turn up again, one of the diehards.
One of the most fun nights of my life happened a few weeks ago. Oh, you were here on our anniversary, our 20th anniversary, and you and my wife were drinking from our champagne flutes from our wedding. You were asking about our whole story of how we met and stuff. And I played my wife one of your songs the night we were married that you don't remember anymore. And you said, oh, if I could pull that one out of my ass, I would, Chris.
I know. Should have given me the heads up.
The song was Falling Is Like This off of Out of Range.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know where to begin with that one?
I haven't played it in a lot of years.
It's a good one. It's so
I do
good.
hear that one sometimes, like requests.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good one to relearn.
Have you ever tripped over the site Ani Tabs? Do you know that
You
exists?
know what? I might have to remember my own chords.
Oh, wow.
For
cool.
reals. For reals.
You should look that one up on there. One of the most stressful things my oldest daughter can say to me is, hey, Dad, teach me the Ani's song. I'm like, I don't even know. I'm like,
chords.
Give me an hour to tune it. I might need thicker strings, and then we'll go on this journey together. It was such a beautiful night that night, hearing how interwoven your music has been with our lives. And here 20 years later, we get to actually share a little bit of time with you and just to get that affirmation back night after night of how much your art has meant to so many people. It's like, thank you for doing what you do.
Thanks for taking it and taking it in and giving it a home. Yeah. It's a win-win.
From last weekend, there's a video of my two daughters singing my 99-year-old grandmother, both hands.
Oh, man.
With the little ukulele, and they're singing about writing graffiti on the body and how hard we tried and all. I'm just like, this is some multi-generational
I love it.
So as we come full circle here, we got to at least touch on the 3 permissions. In this podcast, we talk about 3 permissions as access to our highest expression. These are the permissions to chill, which I think of as like the ability to be with what is or to find stillness. Next is the permission to feel all the feels, which is to access our full humanity, all the messiness, the beauty. And then finally, permission to glow in the dark. So which of the 3 permissions resonate with you, and or what comes up for you when you hear any of those 3 permissions? Like, which one speaks to you?
Well, the glowing in the dark reminded me of the ghost light, which was the last stop on that little book journey.
Yeah.
And a sort of a repetition for me, that image, that sort of purpose. I guess like I was talking about going out on the road and being in my purpose, is such a good feeling, and that's what I feel like. I feel like a little lighthouse, I guess. I just played in a prison recently, Cayuga County Correctional Facility. I've been meaning to play in prisons for many years, and finally I went into one and did it for the first time. And about 6 of the dudes who were there that day. Men's prison.
What songs did you pick? How do you entertain dudes?
I was seat of the pants. I think I started with just like rocker, like played Shameless or something, and played Allergic to Water. I played a song called Nowhere But Barstow that was written by a friend of mine in prison, because I thought, okay, here's something they could relate to.
Is that on that record that
the Prison Music Project?
Cool. When's that coming out?
Coming out this spring.
Awesome. I remember when we were in New Orleans, you were kind of doing the finer mastering job on it. You were really kind of fine-tuning it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's going to be a cool record. Anyway, about 6 of the dudes from that cohort that day wrote letters to me. And the woman from Cornell who had organized me going in there, she sent the letters to me. Man, such tender, open-hearted letters, just talking about this sort of, and this image came up again. It was like a pinprick of light in all this darkness.
Yeah.
They described like there's just so much darkness, and one of them described, and he talked about it in present tense, although most of these dudes are locked up for sometime. I'm a music guy. I go to music festivals. And he said, when you started playing, I didn't even realize how much I missed it. And he said I would have started bawling, but you can't do that in prison, kind of. And I feel like we're just all surrounded by so much darkness, so whatever, to just be beacons for each other when we can.
One of my friends who's a brilliant coach, Laura Neff, she was all hyped up on coffee and listening to my podcast one Saturday morning. And she's like, Casey, I get all the glowing in the dark crap, but she's like, what about those people that glow in the light? She's like, that's the next level. I got full body chills. I was like, ooh, I want like more of that. Yeah. As we wrap up here, may I acknowledge you? Are you open to some acknowledgement?
Sure.
I don't know what kind of dad I would be, let alone what kind of man I would be, or if I would be doing the work I do in the world for the people I do it in the way that I do it, if it was not for your guitar playing and your lyrics and your kick in the ass to just do more, want more, be more, all through my college years into adulthood. You've been just such a massive positive force. For me. And I see how it's like rippling out. It definitely rippled out to my wife, Gail, and into my kids and all who my work touches. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. You're just, all of you, Carters, are so ridiculously beautiful and just lights in the beacons in the light. You are. So I feel very proud to be a part of that equation.
You'll come back for Summergeddon?
Yeah, man.
There's more Summergeddon to be had?
You can't get rid of me.
All right. Well, much love. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, babe. Thank you.
This conversation is lovingly dedicated to my wife, Gail, as well as a couple of my clients and huge Ani fans, Marisa and Lizzie. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. If you know somebody who would enjoy this, please forward it on over to them. You could leave us a review at Apple Podcasts. I'd really appreciate it. And you can find us everywhere online at This Epic Life. Glow in the dark.